You are now listening to the Konig Behind the Wheel podcast.
All right, I'm here with Kevin Lawrence, Pro 1 driver, also Pro 2 driver. How has it been dishing out both series at the same time?
It's super busy throughout the day. First round for both double duty was in Atlanta, and I literally sat in between both the cars for like 4.5 hours straight, juggling between our R32 Skyline and then the S14, the Pro car. The cars are pretty different from each other, so it's kind of takes a little bit of time to get used to one after being in the other. Luckily, I'm able to adapt pretty quick, but it's just it's a lot for one day, and definitely at the end of the day, I mean, I passed out, so it's busy.
Yeah. So, are you the self-proclaimed RB king of FD?
I don't know about the RB king. I know for a while, me and Ryan Literal had kind of like a little rivalry going on between our RB25s not last season, year before, when we were both running Pro 2. He was RB25, I was RB25. He made a bit more power than me. I think mine had a little bit more torque than his or something, but all in all, they both sounded similar, so it was kind of rad just to be the only two RB cars in the series. Now rolling into this year, I'm the only one out there because now Ryan's moved on to a 350Z car that's running a LS engine in it. So the only other than Chris, I think the only Nissan-powered Nissan out here now. So it's kind of cool to be different. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Has the RB presented itself with problems? We know we had plenty of problems, maybe not with the RB specifically, but with the car, with the Pro car that's behind us, right before Long Beach. And we ended up running the R32 as a backup, which was awesome to have. Yeah. And it's also the car that you can't paint in Pro 2, so we're running two different cars. But do you feel that the RB has been a negative? Is it really not the RB? It's just kind of a circumstance?
It kind of comes down to like the build and then the circumstance. I mean, this is my 4th year now running the RB engine, and obviously we wouldn't really stick with it if it was going to be prone to constantly having issues. I've been through a few engines. Obviously it happens. It's racing. But it's the last season I had when I won the championship in Pro 2, it really went off without a hitch. The only issue we had, which is what RBs are known for, is their oiling issues. They like to over-oil the cylinder head and kind of push everything out of the breather. So I'd do 2 passes and the car would push into the catch can about a quart and a half of oil from the sump. So this year we went with a dry sump system from Daily Engineering, and that's solved all the problems with the oiling. And now the car is just running, I think, how it should have been from the beginning. I just kind of wish we would have went to the dry sump earlier, but we progressed with the system and went from factory oil pans to larger oil pans to head drains to all the fixes for the RB stuff, and went one by one to figure out exactly what worked. And really the best thing for the engine itself was the dry sump.
In Atlanta, that was probably the first time that you had the opportunity in one single weekend to run the R32 in Pro 2 and to run the Pro, your Pro car, your S chassis Pro car for Pro 1. Did it present any issues when you tried to go from from Pro 2 and the R32 and then jump in the next, basically that was same day?
Same day, yeah.
Same day.
It got a little kind of frustrating because it was a little troublesome to kind of get used to it. Luckily, I drive both my cars. I like to have just a really gripped up car. So even though that between Pro 1 and Pro 2 there is a tire size difference, with the Skyline being in Pro 2, I'm only allowed to run a 255 wide tire. But we do run so much grip in that car that it's not too far off the pace of the Pro car. The only difference would be maybe the side bite isn't there, but the forward bite is. So I had to kind of be a little easier with the car so I wouldn't over-rotate it on entry and through some of the transitions. But it definitely kind of played with my head a little bit running both cars in the same day. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to qualify for Pro 2 that event on Thursday, which was just a practice day for Pro 1. So luckily I had Friday just to focus on one car. We went through, we qualified with the S14, and I was able to move into Saturday for a battle with Chris Dobbs.
How has your jump been from Pro 2 to Pro? What kind of things, I guess, specifically, psychologically, mechanically, getting the cars ready, because this is the same chassis that you ran last year. Yeah. What kind of things did you have to change and kind of mentally get ready for to run Pro, and what kind of things do you think, out of those things that you've changed, you didn't really understand the gravity until you got here?
We knew coming from Pro 2 to Pro 1, we're going to have to make more power. We're definitely going to have to have more grip. The guys in Pro 1 are extremely fast. And even though I like a really gripped up setup, these guys are sometimes still just running away from me. It's crazy how they've, been able to dial so much extra grip in their cars. Being the rookie year for me, I'm still adapting to the setups, the tracks as well. A lot of these tracks I haven't driven before. This is my first time actually driving here at Wall, so it's taken me probably a lot longer than the other guys I've driven here before, more laps to get comfortable and really start dialing in the grip and really pushing the car harder. So I think that's my biggest struggle, is just a lot of the tracks are so new to me that it's taken more time to really get comfortable before I really want to start turning up the power and turning up the grip in the car.
If you had to give any advice from guys that maybe are in Pro-Am right now or still competing in some of the grassroots series trying to make the jump to Pro-Am or Pro-Am to Pro2, what kind of advice do you think you would give them as far as building their program, building their skill set?
The best thing I can say is start working with sponsors and companies as early as you can to build a relationship. Obviously, competing is not cheap, so you're going to need help from all the companies that you can to kind of help you get to the events and help take care of you for any just kind of random things. Really, a lot of it is as well as seat time. I can't stress that enough. Not having too many laps turned in the car this year is definitely, I think, kind of slowed how fast I'm getting comfortable at each track. But with each round, I'm picking it up a little bit faster just because I've been in the car more recent and more often than the previous event. So seat time's the biggest thing. Getting comfortable in the chase position is one of the hardest things you got to really focus on and be ready for, because the clouds that some of these pro cars put off from this tire smoke is just insane. So you got to keep up with figuring out how to really drive in the blind sometimes.
So let me ask you one other question. All right, so specifically here, you've had to deal with on-off rain patterns, so you're going from wet to dry, wet to dry. What kind of adjustments and transitions have you had to make in the car to be able to kind of prepare yourself for qualifying tomorrow?
It's really tough when the conditions are like how today was, because it's been half rain, half not rain, but then the track has patchy areas that are super slick and some areas that are really grippy. It's almost like unplanning. You can't really figure it out unless you just have a lot of seat time to know exactly where those spots are. Here we made some changes as the rain rolled in. We added some more grip to the car. We unbolted our rear sway bar to try and let the rear suspension do a little more work to try and get more traction in the rain. But with the conditions changing so much, we ended up adding a bunch of grip, and then it started drying, so we're taking some grip back out and trying to get the car to float more so we can get to the top of the bank, we can get to the outer zones and make sure we're on all our marks. It's a tough gamble here with the weather, because you can't really have a perfect setup for the patchy kind of conditions. So,
are there anything specifically when you guys start to get a car ready? You come in. What's always been really amazing to me that I don't think anybody really gets to see unless they come to this Thursday, which is really a closed practice day. Yep. Is how fast the cars go from completely undriftable to completely in drift. Yeah. And what are those typical settings and changes look like to be able to take a car that's kind of fresh off the trailer and adjust it to the track?
Usually what we try and do is obviously the team, we've ran here before with last year with Nate, so we kind of know a basic setup for the track for the chassis for the 240s. So we have a base kind of alignment setup that we usually start at every round with, of just what we were at previous year. We usually come out, the shocks usually are a lot stiffer. We'll usually come out with the higher air pressure in the tires, and then just kind of get warmed up to the track to see what the track conditions are. And then we kind of just dial it in from there. Obviously, first kind of set of tires is just kind of getting warmed up, getting ready for everything. Second set of tires is usually when we'll start dropping tire pressure down, soften up the suspension to really let the car start picking up speed, and then just start driving more aggressive with it. And that's, I think, what you're seeing is first couple laps out is a lot of people are, a little skatey, a little slower, and then they're like, all right, well, we know where the track's at now, and then just kind of start pouring on the grip and the power at that point.
Right. Your home track is OSW, which is also a bank track. Yeah. Do you have any preference, bank, not bank? You like, stuff like, I don't want to say Atlanta, but you know what I mean, more of a street course type feel. Is there anything that you would say is a preference factor? And, I mean, obviously banks have different characteristics. They eat a lot of tires when they're dry. This is not dry.
Yeah, but good. Right. I like bank tracks. I really enjoy them. They're kind of challenging at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's really fun. Just because the added grip that's on the bank, you can kind of usually huck the car in pretty aggressively, and once you get on throttle, all the grip's there, and it's not going to go too high and run into the wall. So bank tracks probably going to be my favorite, mainly because Orlando is home. Usually I can go out there and on my third lap, go out and bump the wall a couple times and just kind of let it know I'm there. It's usually like how everyone makes fun of me. They kind of say it's how I calibrate to know my pace and my line for the weekend is usually I'll go out and I'll be a little bit off until I actually make contact with the bumper on the wall, and then it's like, all right, that's 100%, and then I can rescale myself and then know exactly where I need to be.
Right. Well, I won't hold you up anymore. I wish you a lot of luck this weekend.
Appreciate it.
And I don't know, Kevin Lawrence.